Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. It is Sunday, April 22nd, 2018, and we are live tonight. We had a lot to talk about, a lot going on in the news. You've been following me on Facebook at the African History Network, the African History Network on Facebook. You've seen my Facebook Live broadcast this past week. You've seen me talk about Starbucks and the developments going on with Starbucks. We're going to talk about that some tonight. The black men arrested at Starbucks said they were there for 2 minutes before the police were called. You saw these two brothers. They were interviewed by Robin Roberts on Good Morning America this past Thursday. The world was shocked at what they had to say. Even the Philadelphia Police Commissioner, Richard Ross, has had to apologize for statements he made the previous Saturday. Okay, so we're going to talk some about that. And then also Colin Kaepernick is back in the news. Now, he has not been signed to the team yet. You know that many of us boycotted this past football season. I didn't watch any games, didn't watch the Super Bowl, didn't watch any of that. Colin Kaepernick was right when he said, I'm not going to stand for a flag that oppresses black people. Well, he was just honored with Amnesty International's highest honor for activism, for his protests against the oppression of African Americans and people of color. We'll talk some about that. Then also we know that yesterday was the funeral of former First Lady Barbara Bush. Former First Lady Barbara Bush. She was the wife to George H.W. Bush and the mother to the wife of George H. Bush and the mother to George H.W. Bush, and also the mother to Jeb Bush as well, former governor of Florida. All right. Well, many people were talking about her, and you had presidential historians that were remembering her and how she may have been different from some other first ladies, right? But News1.com had a good article that dealt with her contentious relationship with the African-American community. And in a lot of the coverage of her in white mainstream media, I did not hear them talk about this much. Okay, so we're going to talk some about forgive but don't forget, remembering Barbara Bush's complicated relationship with African-Americans. Forgive but don't forget, remembering Barbara Bush's complicated relationship with African-Americans. Now, a few months ago, you may have heard me talk about a statue of J. Marion Sims. J. Marion Sims, who was known as the father of modern gynecology, that was in Seneca Park in New York, city of New York. Okay, and there was an effort by some African-American women who were members of Black Youth Project 100 to get that statue removed because J. Marion Sims conducted horrific experiments and surgeries on enslaved African women without anesthesia. Well, there's an update to that story. We're going to talk about that some as well today. And then last week, I did not get a chance to deal with the story of African-American students who marched against gun violence in Florida, but you probably did not hear about this. So we have to cover that today. And then also we'll get to the story I did not get a chance to get to last week, which was how the African nation of Namibia gained its independence from South Africa in 1990. We'll deal with some history as well, okay? So on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you have been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter, because I'm about to send one out here in a few minutes. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. We send that out a few times a week, okay? And we'll post it here on the thread, those watching us on Facebook. You can watch us on 910 AM Superstation's Facebook fan page, and then also at the African History Network on Facebook as well. All right. Okay. I want to thank those who came out yesterday to Burt's Theater, 2727 Russell Street in the Eastern Market District. The People's Action, the People's Action Coalition, Brother Negazvu and his group, they had a Detroit Entrepreneur Expo. Dr. Ken Harris was there from the National Business League. Ryan Mack was there. You've heard them here on 910 AM Superstation. I was there as well. I did a presentation. My presentation was called Lessons from the Film Black Panther, Economic Guerrilla Warfare, Political Self-Defense, and How to Wakanda the Vote. Okay, and then Friday, I was the keynote speaker for Greater St. Matthew Baptist Church, their 58th anniversary. Their pastor is none other than 910 AM's own Pastor David Alexander Bullock. He contacted me, asked me to be the keynote speaker for their celebration that took place Friday. So thanks for that. Thanks to Pastor Bullock for asking me. Had a great time there as well. All right. So let's jump into, and I'll tell you about where I'll be next Sunday in Cleveland. And we have a lecture coming up this Friday out in Oak Park. And I'll tell you about a lecture that's coming up Sunday, May 6th at the new Nandy's Knowledge Cafe also. We got a lot going on. All right, so let's jump into the story here about Starbucks. Starbucks is still in hot water. Some of you have been following what's been going on. I know people have been talking about it a lot. We know that Starbucks announced that on Tuesday, May 29th, they're going to close 8,000 Starbucks stores and have implicit bias training for 175,000 employees. The official statement from Starbucks website says they know this is not going to solve the problem. This is a first step, and it's something that's definitely needed. Implicit bias is unconscious discrimination, things like this. So it's something definitely needed. They understand it's not the solution, but it's a beginning. So this past Thursday on Good Morning America, these two brothers, Rashawn Nelson and Dante Robinson, who were 23 years old, they were interviewed by Robin Roberts to get their side of the story about what happened. This is the first interview that they've done, okay? And Huffington Post Black Voices has an article about this. Black men arrested at Starbucks said they were there for 2 minutes before 911 call. ABCnews.go.com has an article. Men arrested at Starbucks were there for business meeting, hoping to change our lives. Men arrested at Starbucks were there for business meeting, hoping to change our lives. Okay, we've got the interview here. So we're going to go to this right now. Here's the interview from this past Thursday, April 19th, Good Morning America. Let's go to this clip. Okay, so we'll get that for you in just a second. Here. But the interview was very revealing. Okay, Rashawn Nelson and Dante Robinson, two 23-year-old African-American men, they were working on a real estate deal. Okay, they were working on a real estate deal, and they were there to meet Andrew Yaffe, okay, who was the white male you saw in the video. And some of the things they talked about in the interview was, quote, as soon as they approached us, referring to the police, they just said we had to leave. This is what Rashawn Nelson said. He said, quote, there was no question of, was there a problem here between you and the manager? What happened? Okay, they were asked to leave by the police, but weren't told why they had to leave. All right, so this caused a number of problems there for them. Okay, so as people saw this interview, they got more insight into what took place. Okay, because there were some questions that people had, right? And we know that also this past week, the Philadelphia Police Commissioner, Richard Ross, who took to Twitter on April 12th to cover for the police, he had to apologize for his role in making things worse. Let's go to this interview.
Very much for being here. It has been quite a week. It's been quite a week. Dante, you both walk in, you get a table. Rashawn, how long was it before you asked to use the restroom?
Immediately, as soon as I walked in. And she stated that they were for paying customers only, and I just left it at that moment.
And the response was, you have to buy something.
Yes.
Then you go and find Dante. You're at the table. What happened next?
We're at the table. We sit down. We're just talking amongst each other. She then comes from around the register, asks, walks up to us, asks if, she can help us with anything. Can we start with some drinks or water or something like that? For when we have bottles of water with us. So, we're fine. We're just waiting for a meeting. We'll be out really quick type thing. And that was it.
So approximately 4:35, you arrive for a 4:45 business meeting. According to 911 accounts, a call was placed at 4:37, approximately 2 minutes after you arrived, to 911. What did you think when you saw police arrive, Dante?
You can't be here for us.
So when they do approach you, what do they say and how do you react?
Well, initially, as soon as they approached us, they just said we have to leave. There was no question of, was there a problem here between you guys and the manager? What happened?
When you were arrested, did they tell you what you were being arrested for?
No, not at the time. We wasn't read any rights. Nothing. Just double lock, handcuffs behind our back, and escorted out and put into a squad car.
Why do you both think that store manager called 911?
Well, Robin, you're asking them to have an opinion about somebody else's intent. The facts speak for themselves. There's not a single witness that says that these young men were misbehaving in any way, and you can see and hear that on the video.
Well, the video has been viewed almost 11 million times, and part of it, Dante, you can see that you're talking to the police officer. What were you all saying to one another?
I was just trying to, process the situation to myself at the time, because I'm thinking about my family that I have, my community. So in that moment, I'm trying to process what's going on, because it didn't really hit me what was going on, that it was real, until I'm being double locked and my hands behind my back.
Dante, did you at some point offer to call the person you were supposed to meet with? Because I know he's shown on the videotape.
After the first time, they walk over and they say you have to leave. I say, we're here for a meeting.
What is the business meeting about?
It's a real estate meeting.
Okay.
We've been working on this for months.
What do you say to some people who say rules are rules, that Starbucks has a policy, you violated that policy, the police asked you repeatedly to leave and you didn't? How do you respond to people who say that?
What I say is I understand that. Rules are rules, but what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And that's in any situation, whether it's race involved, anything.
And Robin, I'm sorry, but what is that rule? Starbucks holds itself open as a place for people to meet and to have public conversations. Those are words from their website.
The CEO, Kevin Johnson, said he has met with you. Can you divulge what you all discussed?
We approached Starbucks and suggested that we engage in mediation with a retired federal judge in Philadelphia. And they agreed to that proposal, and we are still involved in that process. That process requires confidentiality.
What do you want to see happen here, Dante?
I want to make sure that in this situation doesn't happen again. So what I want is for a young man or young men to not be traumatized by this, and instead motivated, inspired.
And what do you want, Rashawn?
So, take this opportunity as
Okay, we're going to pause it right there. We're coming up on a break. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. This was the exclusive interview with Good Morning America that these two brothers did with Robin Roberts. I'm Michael Imhotep, 9:10 a.m., the Superstation, the Future Radio, the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m., the Superstation, the Future Radio. Call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. This is Michael Imhotep. We're live. It's Sunday, April 22nd, 2018. I'm sharing with you the interview that Rashawn Nelson and Dante Robinson did on Thursday, April 19th, on Good Morning America. They were interviewed by Robin Roberts about what happened at the Starbucks on Thursday, April 12th, okay, in Philadelphia, the Spruce Street location of Starbucks in Philadelphia. We're going to go back to this interview here. Let's see. Let me get this queued back up. Let's go back to this interview.
Is for a young man or young men to not be traumatized by this and instead motivated, inspired.
And what do you want, Rashawn?
So, take this opportunity as a stepping stone, to really stand up and, show your greatness, and that you are not judged by the color of your skin as our ancestors were or anyone else. This is something that has been going on for years, and everyone's blind to it, but they know what's going on, if you get what I mean. And, just really taking those actions and putting them into place and, help people understand that it's not just a black people thing. This is a people thing. And that's exactly what we want to see out of this, and that's true change. So put action into place and stop using your words.
We appreciate you using your words here with us this morning and this discussion. And it has to be more than dialogue, as you said. It has to be action. And we appreciate your willingness to be a part of that. And Mr. Colin as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. And we know Starbucks has announced already that they plan to close 8,000 locations for an afternoon of racial bias training.
Who hasn't spent 2 minutes waiting in a Starbucks?
2 minutes. And I think when people hear that, and the fact that he called the business person that they were going to meet at 4:45. They got there 10 minutes early. Yes, he asked to use the restroom. He claims that he was never told that you had to leave. He just said that he was told you have to purchase something. But that being said, this is a moment where there has to be change.
Have they decided what kind of action they're going to take?
I did ask their lawyer, Stuart Cohen, if they had planned on a civil suit of some sort against either Starbucks or the city. They said that's not what they're thinking about at this time, that they want to be a part of the process. Remember, Kevin Johnson, the CEO, said that they wanted those gentlemen to be part of the process. They say they're still working that out, and they were going to allow us, GMA, to follow along and follow up with them and see how that process plays out.
Fascinating story.
And hopefully, Michael, come on.
2 minutes, I mean, and as you said, he said in the piece, actions, not just words. And I think that's what they're looking for, to see a real change, not just with Starbucks, but I think with...
It's a societal issue.
Society,
You just can't label it on Starbucks.
Yeah.
And we'll stick with it all the way.
We will.
Okay, so that was from Thursday, April 19th, 2018, Good Morning America. Now, their attorney was there with them as well, so you heard their attorney speak and ask some questions also. Check out the article from abcnews.go.com, which is the official website of ABC News. It's not abcnews.com. That's a fake website. abcnews.go.com. Men arrested at Starbucks were there for business meeting hoping to change our lives. Okay, so it was announced this past week. Let's see, April 17th, it was announced, the New York Times is an article, Starbucks to close 8,000 U.S. stores for racial bias training after arrest. And the training is being put together by, you have Sherilyn Ifill from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. You have Brian Stevenson from the Equal Justice Initiative. If you saw the interview on 60 Minutes a couple of Sundays ago that Oprah Winfrey did with him dealing with the memorial to lynchings, that's Brian Stevenson. Okay, I've been following him for a few years. You have a number of different people involved in putting together the training, the implicit bias training as well. On Starbucks' website, there was an official press release that stated that this is not, Starbucks does not think that this is the cure, but there are going to be a number of steps, but this is one of the first steps, okay? And you can there was a press release at Starbucks website dealing with this. Let's see. The name of that article, their website is starbucks.com, news.starbucks.com. It's from April 17th. Starbucks to close all stores nationwide for racial bias education on May 29th. Okay. And let's see, in this press release, it says the curriculum will be developed with guidance from several national and local experts confronting racial bias, including Brian Stevenson, founder and executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative, Sherilyn Ifill, president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and Education Fund, Heather McGee, president of DEMOS, former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, and Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the ADL Anti-Defamation League. Starbucks will involve these experts in monitoring and reviewing the effectiveness of the measures we undertake. Okay, so check that out. That's from Starbucks website. That's an official press release from Starbucks. Okay, all right. So they also talked about this yesterday morning on AM Joy, Joanne Reed, MSNBC. So check that out as well. Starbucks to close all stores for implicit bias training. And we may have time to pull up that. We may have time to go to that as well, because that was something I want to share with you all also. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. So this past week, there was another incident with a Starbucks, and this was in the Los Angeles area. I did a number of Facebook Live broadcasts this past week. Some of you all saw those. And this was dealing with a brother who was, the Griot.com had an article about this. Video captures, another racist Starbucks incident involving black man barred from the bathroom. So this was an incident in the Los Angeles area, okay? And a new video has been making the rounds on social media showing a Starbucks manager alerting authorities to get a black man removed from a Los Angeles area store. Before the video began, the man was allegedly denied the bathroom code and was told that it was because he had not made a purchase. So the brother's name is, let's see, what's his name here? I think they have it in here. But what happened was his name is Brandon. Okay, Brandon Ward, all right? So what happened was he started filming, and there was a man coming out of the bathroom who just happened to be white. His name is Weston. So Brandon began filming, okay, when he was denied the bathroom code, and he saw a white man leave the restroom and asked this guy if he had made a purchase, okay? The white male named Weston said that he had not yet made a purchase, but he planned to. The black man began filming the incident, then questions the Starbucks employees about why he was denied the bathroom code because of a lack of purchase. But the white male, who also had not bought anything, was allowed the access to the restroom. So this is another case that took place in the Los Angeles area. So Starbucks is in hot water, and in more than one way also. So the woman behind the register informed the man that she was the store manager. She denied that she had given the white male the code, and she told the young man to leave the store because it is a private business. Now, what's interesting when they say it is a private business, when you call the police are public. The police are paid for by taxpayer dollars. Oftentimes, those are taxpayers that you're calling the police on. So the police are not private police. The police are public police. I just find this interesting. So this is a private business, and you need to stop recording, she said. She said, I am the store manager, and I'm asking you to leave right now. You're not allowed to be here anymore. You need to leave. Okay? So this is another case. This is in the Los Angeles area. This is not Philadelphia. This is the Los Angeles area. Starbucks. Very interesting. So we've been posting almost every day. We've been posting an article from shopblack.us, SHOPPE, shopblack.us. It's called 47 Black-Owned Coffee and Tea Businesses that are great alternatives to Starbucks. 47 Black-Owned Coffee and Tea Businesses that are great alternatives to Starbucks. Okay, we're going to post it again here on our, we'll post it here on the thread of the broadcast on Facebook, and we'll post this on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network again. Usually when we post it, it gets about 800 likes. Okay. And there was an article from blackenterprise.com also with 60 alternatives to Starbucks, African-American owned alternatives to Starbucks. And that included 5 stores in Detroit. That included 5 African-American owned stores in Detroit as well. Okay. Metro Times had an article dealing with this as well. I have to see if I can pull that one up from the Metro Times. First time I posted that, it got about 2,500 likes. Okay, we'll pull that one up also. Now, why some people are spending $5 for a cup of coffee, I really don't understand that. I understand it. I understand the programming, but still don't understand it. That doesn't make sense to me. Mrs. Folger's been around for 100 years. I think you can get a can for $5. You stand in line for a cup of coffee for $5. So the MetroTimes.com had an article from April 16th. These 5 black-owned Detroit cafes are better than Starbucks. These 5 black-owned Detroit cafes are better than Starbucks. Let's see. They talk about the Commons. They talk about the Narrow Way Cafe, Detroit Sip, Folk, and Lapite Zinc. All right. Not familiar with any of them. I don't drink coffee, but check out this article also. All right. These 5 black-owned Detroit cafes are better than Starbucks. All right. I'll take that word for it. Okay. So, all right. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Tracy, line 2. Welcome to the African History Network show. How you doing, Tracy?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for taking my call.
I'm all right.
So I had a quick question about Starbucks. The first thing is I found out that Melody Hobson is an African-American woman who's on the board of directors for Starbucks.
Yes.
And Rosalind Brewer is a graduate of Cass Tech, is the COO of Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean for us when we get into those companies and those spaces and incidents like this happen?
Okay,
How
good.
should we be using our power? So we're boycotting, but we have 2 African Americans on the board. Like,
let me ask you a question.
Strategy?
Let me ask you a question. So It was Melody Hobson, who's the president of Aerial Capital Management, who was the one who pushed for the implicit bias training in the first place. That came from Melody Hobson.
Okay.
That's where that came from. Melody Hobson is also married to George Lucas, who created Star Wars.
Right.
Okay. Rosalind Brewer is the former president of Sam's Club.
Okay.
In September of 2017, she was already on the board of Starbucks. And in September 2017, she was made chief operating officer of Starbucks. So I know there were articles floating around. They didn't just make her, I'm not saying you said this, but other people said this. They didn't just make her COO when this incident happened. No, she was made COO back in September 2017.
Right.
Okay? Just so people understand that. All right. So, you're going to see more to come. I encourage people, number one, and I bet you that it was Melody Hobson who told them to incorporate some of these people to help put together this curriculum. Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative. Brian Stevenson is the one who his organization was the one that found 4,000 lynchings of African Americans that took place that were not covered in the history books. This is Brian Stevenson. Oprah Winfrey just interviewed Brian Stevenson 2 weeks ago and dealt with the museum that's being created to honor African Americans who were victims of lynchings and trying to expose the racial terror that's been inflicted on African Americans. Brian Stevenson was just interviewed by Reverend Al Sharpton this morning on Politics Nation, MSNBC. Okay? You've got U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. And U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, under Eric Holder, we know that you had investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments. That came from the Department of Justice. Okay, so I guarantee you, Melody Hobson was instrumental in telling them, look, you need to get some of these people involved in this. All right, but as the official statement from Starbucks came from their own press release, because I'm on Starbucks' website right now looking at their press release from April 17th, they said this is just the first step. This is not the end. This is just the first step. Okay?
Right. So I guess my question is, from a strategic standpoint, when we know African Americans are on boards or CEOs of these companies that have committed these type of intrinsic bias or as part of their process,
implicit bias,
intrinsic bias,
implicit bias.
Shouldn't we have like a process? You know, let's contact them. Let's do something together. You know, as opposed to just reacting right away.
Well, I'm all for economic boycott of Starbucks. I don't understand why people spend $5 for a cup of coffee in the first place. I'm all for economic boycott. I'm all for it. And that economic pressure, when you put economic pressure on them like that, that causes them to work faster. That causes them to implement what needs. That causes them to correct the problem faster when they see this start spreading and they see they're losing money.
Right.
Now, there are some steps in certain cases. There are some steps where you have a meeting with them first. You try to reconcile, and an economic boycott is like a last step. But in this case here, because this has gained so much attention, and people are saying, "I'm not going to buy any Starbucks," go ahead with that. Redistribute the pain. This is what I talked about yesterday at the Detroit Entrepreneur Expo. We talked about lessons from the film Black Panther, economic guerrilla warfare, political self-defense, and how to Wakanda to vote. And I talked about redistribute the pain to those inflicting pain upon us through targeted, sustained economic withdrawal strategies. Redirect dollars to African-American-owned businesses so we can become the #1 employers of our own people, just like every other ethnic group in America, and renegotiate our relationship with corporate America. Those are the three main principles of economic guerrilla warfare. Let's go to John, line 1. Thanks for holding, John. Welcome to the African History Network show.
Hotep, keep the knowledge coming, Hotep. That's exactly what I want to hear. And you're doing it with better perfection and intelligence and so forth. And you are taking them out of the school. Now, Hotep, why you knowledge is coming out like this, and I hope the African American people, women and men, listen and set up them a listening post, listen to what you're saying, so they won't be doubting you and so forth when you be coming on talking about it and so forth. And I would think that you urge them they got to get out of this vote, Hotep. They definitely got to get out of this vote. That should be one of their top priorities. At 2018, the vote, get ready to then vote, and not reacting like that Imhotep said, but act. Because reacting ain't no problem, but it's still you got to act and so forth.
Okay.
You doing bringing the knowledge tonight and so forth.
Absolutely.
I don't know you familiar with the Hotep. The Black Panthers over in Saudi Arabia sold out over there and so forth.
Yeah, that was the first Hollywood movie to be shown in Saudi Arabia in 35 years. The film Black Panther.
That's right. That's right. So I just had to hear you speak about it, but I know you probably will. But I just want to say I want to congratulate Colin.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick.
But winning the war over there in the Netherlands and so forth.
Yes.
Because he is really on the case, and you're looking at the great Muhammad Ali doing about stuff and so forth.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a story coming up. We're going to talk about that tonight also.
Okay, Hotep. And so I just want to thank you, and I'll be listening, man. And like I said, people got to listen and what you're talking and what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Because it's very, very important. Knowledge is important. Thank you, Hotep.
Okay, brother. All right, thanks for calling. All right, let's go to Joseph, line 2. Hey, Joseph, thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from New Orleans, King Peace.
Okay, New Orleans. Okay, go ahead, man. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, man. I just want to say, like, we constantly see these situations, happen over and over in this country. Whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's Los Angeles, New York, and it's like, from a real actionable, real solution standpoint, it's like I just feel like our people, like, we not really getting real results. We having all this dialogue, these companies putting out all this training, but we constantly seeing the same events over and over. So is it really working?
Well, all companies don't necessarily have implicit bias training.
well, aside from just the companies, like, I mean, just the situations, like our quality of life in this country is like, you know, it's like the solutions that they do present, you can't really take any of it serious, because it's like months later, weeks later, you get another situation, and it's like, it just reminds you, like, are we really moving forward? Like,
well, under Trump, we're moving backwards. Under Trump, we're moving backwards. Under Trump, a lot of the policies put in place by President Obama are being reversed. Under Trump, they redeclared the war on drugs. When if you actually study this, if you actually study the data under President Obama, the prison population went from 2.3 million. The U.S. prison population went from 2.3 million down to 1.53 million as of December 2015, from the report from the Department of Justice. It's being reversed. It's being reversed under Trump. See, people don't understand how politics impacts every aspect of their lives. And when elections take place, it's not just the policies that a particular candidate is pushing or a party is pushing. It's also protecting any gains and advances you made in the previous election in previous years. And this is something people don't understand. Those things are being reversed right now under Trump. So we're going backwards and don't realize it. And you don't have a Department of Justice who is going to launch any investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments, and they're not going to enter any police departments into consent decrees, because Jeff Sessions is hands off on the police. Go ahead.
But, you know, that's true. Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump, they're public servants. They serve the public. So it's our job to hold these individuals accountable, which means that we have to put our thinking hats on. It's like, from a national standpoint, you know, we're not being strategic as we need to be. It's like we just, you know, we put these people in office, it's like we take what they give us and then we complain about the results. That falls on us. Everybody
part of yeah. So what happens is
like Donald Trump, he's gonna be who he is. A lot of that is our responsibility to take action to create the reality that we want to see. We can't expect no one to do for us. That falls on us.
Right. But what happens is, this is why I said during the election, I said it's going to take I said we're going to have a record turnout, and I said we need to stop Trump. So you had 16.4 million African Americans registered to vote in 2016. Only 59% voted. 2012, 66% voted. You had a 7 percentage point drop. You have 4 million. You have 4 million people in 2000. You had 4 million people in 2016 that voted for President Obama in 2012 and did not vote in 2016. A third of them were African American. Because now there was rampant voter suppression. There was rampant voter suppression that took place in the 2016 election cycle, and I talked about that consistently on my shows. And I said we're going to have a record turnout to overcome the rampant voter suppression, because Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act of '65 was struck down in 2013, which was the oversight. And then after that took place, then you started seeing a lot more states have voter suppression and voter ID laws. So the 2016 presidential election was the first presidential election in about 50 years where you did not have the full protection of the Voting Rights Act. And we're seeing the results. See, we don't understand the connection between politics and conditions. Politics impacts every aspect of our life. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Okay, so we have to understand the connection between the two, and then also understand that we are worth fighting for as well, because too many of our people, because they suffer from low self-esteem and a lack of understanding of their history, they don't think they're worth fighting for, and they don't think people who look like them are worth fighting for. This is why many of us don't fight back.
Now, you hit that on the nose, King. Like, I see that every day down here in New Orleans. It's like we have to literally stand up for ourselves. We can't expect no one to change our situation but our situations. I'm working with a group of kings down here in New Orleans because I'm nothing but 26 years old.
Okay.
And I realize what's going on out here, and it's like we need real leaders, and we need people who's going to step into these positions to bring about the change that we need. And as you said, King, we have to start understanding these issues because it affects us. It's not affecting no one else. It affects us.
Absolutely. It affects us, and they're using the laws and they're using the policies to whip us upside our head. So we need to understand the law better than they understand it. This is understanding political self-defense. If they're using the law to trap you, if they're using the law to redistribute scarce wealth, power, and resources, we need to understand that better than they do, disarm them of that weapon and use it to our advantage. We don't understand law and policies.
Why would we not want to? If these are the weapons that they're using against us, why wouldn't you want to understand how to work that weapon? It's common sense.
Absolutely.
But we complain when we complain when we get the result of us not taking advantage, of us not embracing the knowledge and education that's needed to understand these situations that affect us. That's on us.
Right.
And that's what we not understanding in this country. It's like you keep complaining about the bullying you, but you don't want to learn the tactics and the strategies that the bully is using to bully you.
Right. We have to understand how that works. Absolutely. Okay, man. Thanks for calling. Keep listening, okay? All right. Hey, I want to let you all know coming up this Friday, April 27th in Oak Park at the Crown Point Building, I'll be doing a presentation 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, April 27th. Suite 326 is an office building, third floor, Suite 326. We'll deal with the role of black women in the film Black Panther. You don't want to miss this presentation. I did it in Baltimore, blew people away. The role of black women in the film Black Panther. That's coming up Friday, April 27th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 25900 Greenfield Road, Suite 326, Oak Park, Michigan. That's the Crown Point Building. It's an office building. I've done a couple presentations there before. It's a free event. Donations accepted. We'll get this information up at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, okay? And then let's see, Sunday, April 29th, I'll be in Cleveland at the Mitchell Event Center at the Cleveland Natural Hair Care Expo. 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. is the event. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information there. I'll be doing a workshop there, the role of black women in the film Black Panther. I'll have a vendor booth there also. Come check me out, those in the Cleveland area, okay? Those in Detroit, Sunday, May 6th, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the new Nandy's Knowledge Cafe, 71 Oakman Avenue. 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Hamilton. I'll be doing my big presentation dealing with the film Black Panther analysis, African culture, history, and Afrofuturism. A Black Panther analysis, African culture, history, and Afrofuturism. The film is deep on many different levels. You have African cultural influences from 11 different African cultures at least. It deals with African spirituality. It connects to African history. It's a very, very deep movie, okay? That's Sunday, May 6th, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the new Nandy's Knowledge Cafe located at 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Hamilton. Free event, donations accepted. Visit our website also, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, because I have a lot of these DVD presentations available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And we have a Black Panther bundle pack of 8 DVD presentations. We'll have that uploaded tonight because I was working on that today, putting together the graphic for that. So you're just gonna blow your way. All right. Let's go to Rod, line 1. Hey Rod, thanks for holding. We're coming up on a break, but we'll go ahead and get you in. Tell us where you're calling from, Rod.
Thank you, brother Mike. I'm calling from Benton Harbor, Michigan, about 200 miles southwest.
Yes.
From you in Detroit.
Yes, Benton Harbor, Michigan. Okay, go ahead with the question or comment.
Hey, brother Mike. I know that when at the end of the day, it comes down to each individual and each individual group as to how we should approach and continue to fight this ugly disease called racism. But you, in your own personal opinion, what do you think that we should do, brother? You think we should continue to? I heard you mention, since this case has and this situation has so much momentum and so much publicity, that we should continue to, go ahead and continue to boycott. We know how powerful the bus boycott were back in 1955. But do you think that we should, continue to meet with Starbucks and different when these kind of things pop up? You think we should meet with them and make demands and yes,
you do that while the boycott is going on. You do that while the boycott is going on because you're gonna get more accomplished when you have economic pressure on them meeting with them than when you're meeting with them and don't have economic pressure. So you keep the economic pressure on them while you are meeting with them. You don't let up.
Okay.
Hey, and turn down your radio in the back also, please. I can hear it in the background.
Yeah, that's the live on the phone. Yeah. So in other words, don't stop the boycott.
No, I say keep it going. Keep it going. And some people need to. I mean, and some people need to cut back on the amount they spend. Why are you spending $5 on a latte every day?
Right.
That don't even make sense. So you keep up the economic pressure. The economic pressure allows you to push your agenda. You don't back up on the economic pressure because you're having meetings. You keep the economic pressure going until you achieve until you bring about the resolution that you're seeking. The economic pressure allows you to push your agenda.
Gotcha. All right, brother. Well,
if you study the Montgomery bus boycott, what ended segregation on the buses wasn't the boycott. It was the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale, filed February 1st, 1956. And the four plaintiffs were Aurelia S. Browder, Claudette Colvin, Mary Louise Smith, and Susie McDonald, four African-American women. They kept the economic boycott going until the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional to segregate the buses.
That's right.
Yeah, they didn't stop it when it went to court. They kept it going until they got the result.
That's right. Brother, I know you're such a deep researcher. Do you know basically how much impact by the numbers that the bus boycott had at that time?
I know it crippled Birmingham. I'm not sure. I don't remember how much the stores lost. I know it crippled them, but I do know the Tuskegee, Alabama economic boycott from 1957 to 61, which lasted 4 times as long. They shut down 100 white-owned businesses in that economic boycott. That was in Tuskegee, Alabama. Okay, man, we're coming up on the break.
I don't hear as much about that.
No, well, yeah, okay. Well, hold the line. We'll bring you on. Put them on hold. Hold the line. We'll bring you on the other side of the break. Okay, hey, you listen to the African History Network show, 910 a.m. Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. We're in our second hour. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. The call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. This Friday, April 27th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Oak Park, Michigan. I'll be doing a presentation at 25900 Greenfield Road, 25900 Greenfield Road, the Crown Point building, which is an office building, Suite 326, third floor, Suite 326. The role of black women in the film Black Panther. It's going to blow your way. It's a deep film, and you definitely want to come out. Free event, donations accepted. We'll have information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, about that. Let's go back to Rod. I want Rod to finish his thoughts. Rod, before the break, you were saying that people don't hear about the Tuskegee, Tuskegee, Alabama economic boycott in 1957. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know you got other callers, so I'm going to make it quick. You know, it appears to me, and shame on me, I need to be more knowledgeable of the Tuskegee project too. But you've caused me to study it after our conversation. But why don't you think we first of all, why don't you think we talk about it more? It's not publicized as much.
You're talking about
and then
Rod, let me ask you a question. Rod, let me ask you a question.
Significant than you say it was more effective than the bus boycotts in Montgomery necessarily. You think so?
It was longer. Okay, when you said we don't talk about it, you said Tuskegee experiment. But the Tuskegee experiment of untreated syphilis on the Negro male, that's different than the Tuskegee, Alabama economic boycott in 1957.
Oh, yeah, I know that. That's actually what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah. But it was that.
So many people don't know about the Tuskegee, Alabama economic boycott because we don't study our history. That's why we don't know about it. That lasted 4 times as long. The Montgomery bus boycott lasted for 381 days. This one, the Tuskegee, Alabama, lasted 4 years.
Wow.
So just like in 1953, we don't know about the Baton Rouge, Louisiana bus boycott in 1953, which lasted 8 days, led by Reverend T.J. Jemison. And this served as a template for the Montgomery bus boycott, because we don't understand our history. This is why we keep getting our behinds kicked year after year. We see a people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past and the present and the future to meet the needs of the community.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand how you dealt with these problems in the past, then you are going to keep going around in circles.
Yeah.
So this is why, if you study Dr. King's last speech, April 3rd, 1968, I've been to the mountaintop, and those who were there at the Detroit Entrepreneur Expo on Friday, those who were at the 58th anniversary of Greater St. Matthew Baptist Church on Friday, and those who were at the Detroit Entrepreneur Expo on Saturday, you heard me talk about Dr. King's last speech, and he left a blueprint for us, and he said that we have to always anchor our external direct action with the power of economic withdrawal. And he talked about economic boycotts in the speech. See, on the television, they show us the last 2 minutes of the speech where he talks about getting to the promised land.
Yeah.
In that speech, he left the blueprint of fighting back with economic withdrawal strategies. He told them to go out and tell your friends and family here in Memphis to boycott Coca-Cola and Wonder Bread and Hart's Bread and Siltest Milk because of the discriminatory hiring practices. The speech is about 43 minutes. It's not the 2 minutes they show you on the television. The speech is 43 minutes. It's on YouTube. People need to watch that speech.
You're right. You're right. And it was brilliant. It's a present blueprint for us. You're right.
Absolutely. So people should read the article that I wrote. Why did Dr. King tell us to redistribute the pain, understanding the power of economic withdrawal? Why did Dr. King tell us to redistribute the pain, understanding the power of economic withdrawal? Read that article. The video's in there of his last speech. I go through, show you different examples, and then you can also, if you want to, you can order the 4-hour lecture that I did called Redistributing the Pain, How African Americans Historically Fought Back with Economic Boycotts. Redistributing the Pain, How African Americans Historically Fought Back with Economic Boycotts. That's a lecture I did. It's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, Rod, I got to get these other calls. Thanks for calling. Okay, let's go to Arnold in East Point, then we'll go to Reno, we'll go to Chuck, and then we'll go to Charlene also. Arnold, go ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, I'd like to talk about Gilchrist for Lieutenant Governor.
That's not what we're talking about.
Oh, well, okay.
I think you may, this is the African History Network show. I think you may. Are you watching online or something like that?
No, I'm listening to you on the radio.
Okay, yeah, that's not what we're talking about right now.
But I've been listening to you for a half hour, so okay. But I don't understand why you're still promoting African Americans to get out and vote for Hillary Clinton. They should have got out and voted for Hillary Clinton. I just don't understand.
Why don't you understand that? Did you go to her website and read her 36 policies at her website?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, who should African Americans have voted for?
And basically, under Donald Trump, African American unemployment is at an all-time low, right?
No, it's back up. No, let's get something straight. Number one, under President Obama, the unemployment rate went from 16.7% in August of 2011 down to 7.8% when he left the office. Donald Trump comes in January 20th, 2017. It goes from 7.8% down to 6.8%. So if you're going to give anybody credit, slow down. You got me confused with somebody else. Slow down. If you're going to give somebody credit, then the credit needs to go to President Barack Obama. Trump continued what Obama was doing. It's gone back up under Trump. What's also been increased. What also has happened under Trump is Trump has reversed over 100 policies that President Obama had in place. Trump reversed President Obama's initiative when it came to privatize prisons. President Obama in August of 2016 said that the federal government was not going to renew contracts for privatized prisons for federal prisoners. Trump reversed that. Why? Because Corrections Corporation of America, which is now known as Core Civic, which is a publicly traded company, the stock exchange symbol is CXW. They're traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And Geo Group, they donated almost $600,000 to Trump's campaign. And Trump is very pro-police. Trump is not for any type of restrictions. He's not for holding police accountable. So African Americans, Trump is death for African Americans. Trump, if you actually study what's been taking place, if you study Betsy DeVos with Secretary of Miseducation, you look at the reforms they're doing in the Secretary in the Department of Education, you look at them gutting the Civil Rights Departments in the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Department in the EPA, the Civil Rights Department in the Department of Education. It's been horrific for African Americans.
Well, can I speak?
I pause to let you speak.
Well, thank you. Everything you basically said was true except for a few things. You know, President Obama was voted twice overwhelmingly in Macomb County.
Okay.
And which is predominantly a UAW county, a union county.
Okay.
Now, 30% of UAW workers voted for Trump, right? Over 30%.
Okay.
Did. And Macomb County switched from twice overwhelmingly voting for Obama to Trump. Now, I was born and raised in Detroit. I graduated from Cass Tech High School, all that other stuff, and I've been around Democrats my whole life. And unfortunately, I think the Democratic Party, especially the Michigan Democratic Party, is taking the blue-collar worker and the African-American worker for granted. They just think they're going to walk into the voting booth and show up and vote. And I'll tell you what, I think the Democratic Party only gives a damn about African-Americans on Election Day, and they only give a damn about blue-collar workers on Election Day.
Let me ask you a question. What does Macomb County have to do with the 44 million African-Americans nationwide? You started out with your conversation saying, basically, that African-Americans nationwide should not have voted for Hillary Clinton.
Well,
if you actually study Hillary Clinton's policies, one, largely the policies that President Obama had in place and the reforms President Obama had in place, she was going to keep. One. Two, if you actually read her 36 policies at her website, and you read the 13 policies that Trump had at his website, her policies were absolutely much better for African Americans.
You're right.
So why would you then say that? Why would you then say that African Americans should not have voted for Hillary Clinton?
Well, you're right that Hillary Clinton was going to continue the policy of the Democratic Party, and the policy of the Democratic Party is to decrease the power of the African American voter and worker and increase the power of the illegal immigrant.
No, that's not true. You've been watching Fox News too much. Okay, Arnold.
No.
All right, thanks for calling, Arnold. Number one, he got the wrong show. Number two, after I laid out the facts to him, with no notes, by the way, he then had to agree with me. Then he wanted to go to his illegal immigrant thing, right? You really don't want me to tell you who the original illegal immigrants are, Arnold, if you actually study history. If you go research the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, when France sold 828,000 square miles of land to the U.S. for less than 3 cents an acre. Go read the article at history.com about the Louisiana Purchase, and you find out that the majority of the land that France sold, they didn't even own. It belonged to Native Americans. Come on. So now let's look at what happened. He intellectually was defeated on the air. So then he had to go with a straw man and then talk about illegal immigrants. Now, that was after I defeated him in what he was saying. Then he brings up illegal immigrants. He didn't talk about illegal immigrants at any point in the before he brought that up. He didn't talk about them at all. Then he said, "Oh, the Democratic Party wants to empower illegal immigrants." No, that's ridiculous. And then Trump uses the Dreamers and says, "We love the Dreamers. Nobody loves the Dreamers more than I do." All this stuff. Yeah. But then you go look at who he has working at his resort. See, Trump played these white people for fools. That's what happened. And some of them haven't even realized they got screwed by Trump. They're so worried about trying to keep resources and attack African Americans, you don't realize that the elites like Trump don't like poor and middle class white people, to tell you the truth. Go look at what happened in Kentucky last year in Kentucky, when Kentucky got a Republican governor and a Republican state legislature. The first thing they did was put in place right-to-work laws, which kicked the behind of the white union workers that voted for the Republicans in the first place. Go research that. That happened in Kentucky. That's the first thing that these white Republicans did. They put right-to-work laws in place, which attacked the unions, and a lot of these union workers voted. Now, why did white union workers in Macomb County vote for Trump when Trump was against the bailout that saved a lot of your jobs? Trump was against the auto bailout. Look at this. The auto bailout, they should be thanking President Obama for the auto bailout. President Obama promoted that. Go research this. Trump was against the auto bailout. Donald Trump said that he said that General Motors and Chrysler should file for bankruptcy. They should then move their plants to states, especially southern states, that don't have unions, so they can lower the wages, and the workers would just have to take what they offer. This is what Trump said. That doesn't make sense. So this is what you deal with when you do radio. But, hey, I've been doing radio 8 years, so I know how to deal with people like that. But thanks for calling in, Arnold. I appreciate that. You gave me an opportunity to talk some politics. I bet you he didn't think I knew that stuff. Google my name so you know who you're talking to. I am HOTE to the mother-loving P. All right, let's go to Reno, line 3. Hold the line, Charlene. We're coming to you. Let's go to Reno, line 3 in New Orleans.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on the air, Reno. Go ahead, man.
King Michael, I want to say I love your energy. I love what you stand for. I love the debate that I just heard. Man, I never saw and heard a black man speak out so intelligently and boldly, but also professionally. So I want to definitely give you a salute to that for handling that professionally.
Thanks.
But I wanted to speak on the Starbucks topic.
Go ahead.
The guys that went to jail. So I'm 24 years old, and when I see that does, create this frustration. But and it does make you want to boycott, because I usually go to Starbucks and complete like a lot of work on my laptop. So
sure.
Now I'm on the fence, like I don't want to go to Starbucks. You know what I mean? I stand for
right.
Black rights and just doing the right thing. But Starbucks, we can boycott that. I mean, that's coffee. But my question is, what happens when we start getting mistreated by Walmart, by the corner store, and by things that are a necessity to us? Because the problem I see is when we do begin to start getting mistreated, because it's starting to become a trend. This is just not happening with Starbucks. But when it comes to someone that's a necessity to us in our family base, like, how do we survive? Because I know that it's like, okay, we're going to boycott, but we're depending on them. You know what I mean?
Well, let me share this with you quickly, and then I got to go to Chuck also. One, if we look at Starbucks, I gave the article 47 black-owned coffee and tea businesses that are better alternatives to Starbucks. 47 black-owned coffee and tea businesses that are great alternatives to Starbucks. One. Two, when you have things like that happen at the corner stores, you have local activists that get involved and rectify those issues. We've seen that happen here in Detroit with New Era Detroit. We've seen that happen with Minister Malik Shabazz's organization. You have local activists that get involved on the local levels, okay? But we also have to understand that we have to utilize different types of black business directories. There's some nationwide, right? So I talked about some yesterday in my presentation at the Detroit Entrepreneur Expo. You have some like Let's Buy Black365.com or BlackTradeLines.com, which is a really good one. BlackTradeLines.com, okay? And these are online directories, and some of them have apps that you can download to your phone of African-American owned businesses that are alternatives, okay? So as these different events happen, and I don't know if it's happening more, it's just being documented more with cell phones, okay?
Right.
See, you just had one that happened in Alabama this morning. We posted about it on our fan page, the African History Network. Let's see, rawstory.com had one, and the police were called on this sister, in Alabama at a Waffle House because of argument. So the workers there called the police on this sister because she did not want to pay she didn't want to pay the charge for the plastic utensils. They called the police on her. The police come, tackle her, things like this, take off part of her clothing. All right?
Wow.
This happened at a Waffle House in Alabama. All right, we'll find that article because I posted about it on. Okay, so rawstory.com has this article, and we're coming up on the break. White Alabama cops called out for pulling clothes off Black Waffle House customer during early morning arrest. This is just from a few hours ago. Now there'll probably be protests because they're like, look, how much time we got before the break? We got a few seconds. Okay, so a viral video showing a Black Alabama woman who was wrestled to the ground and partially stripped by two white officers in a Waffle House scuffle has a local city councilman calling for answers and investigation. This happened this morning, Sunday morning. Let's see. In the Facebook post, the woman, because it was broadcasted on Facebook Live and Facebook took it down. The Facebook post, the woman who was arrested says she objected to the extra fee customers have to pay for plastic tableware, stating the last time she went to this restaurant, her plastic tableware was given to her with no extra charge. So arguments ensues, and the employees called the police on her.
Wow.
Okay, we got to go to break. Hold the line, Reno, and then we'll come to Chuck, and then Charlene, call back in. Listen to the African History Network show, 9:10 a.m. The Superstation. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation, the future of radio. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. A lot of people found out I'm a researcher a few minutes ago. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, we have a lot of information there for you. I have 3 presentations coming up. One in Cleveland at the Cleveland Natural Hair Care Expo, Sunday, April 29th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is the event. I'll be speaking there, dealing with the role of Black women in the film Black Panther. And then also Friday, April 27th, here in the Detroit area in Oak Park, Michigan. Friday, April 7th in Oak Park, Michigan. I will be doing a presentation, the role of Black women in the film Black Panther, at 25900 Greenfield Road. 25900 Greenfield Road, the Crown Point building. It's an office building, Suite 326, 3rd floor. Free event, donations accepted. Come on out. We'll get that flyer up tonight or in the morning at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, all right? People need to read this article. Now, when I was on Spud's show a few months ago, I talked about this. thinkprogress.org. 5 things you should know about the Trump economy. 5 things you should know about the Trump economy. Here's what is really going on January 30th, 2018. And one of the things they talk about is how more jobs were created in 2016 under President Obama than were created in 2017 under Trump. After all that talking Trump does. See, I was in sales for a long time. I'm still in sales, but I've been in sales for a long time, so I know BS when I hear it. Black unemployment fell at a slower rate in 2017 than the previous 4 years. Wait a second. According to Trump, see, Trump doesn't even understand the lies that he tells. Black unemployment fell at a slower rate in 2017 than the previous 4 years. Whenever Trump is questioned about about how he treats communities of color, he is quick to fall back on one statistic, the black unemployment rate. During the CNN interview Saturday night, Van Jones asked musicians, okay, so he talked to Jay-Z about that. But a Washington Post reporter, Philip Bump, noted recently, Trump is taking credit for something he had no part in. This is what thieves do. This is what thieves do. They take credit for stuff they had nothing to do with. It's not as if black unemployment was 18% under President Obama. As soon as Trump took office, it plummeted. Black unemployment fell consistently from 2010. It peaked at 2011, but it's been falling. Under President Obama, the African-American unemployment rate was cut in half. Black unemployment fell fairly consistently from 2010 on, as did the rates for whites and Hispanics. From January to December 2017, the unemployment rate among African Americans fell 1 percentage point. During the same period in 2016, it fell the same amount. In 2015, it fell 1.9%. The previous year, it fell 1.5%. Okay? See, Trump just tells so many lies like people can't read. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's a government entity. That's not InfoWars. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate for whites is 3.7%. This was back January 30th, 2018. Almost half the 6.8% for black Americans. If Trump truly cared about the economic well-being of black Americans, he would notice the double-digit disparity is a, quote, historic fixture of racial discrimination at play in our national economy, end quote. Now, Trump doesn't talk about how the unemployment rate for African Americans is twice as high as white people. He doesn't even talk about that. You know, so then you need to read this because, see, this article dispels a lot of these lies that Trump tells, okay? His first year in office, he told about 2,150 false or misleading statements, okay? And then the other thing is that job growth was slower in 2017 than every year since 2010. Now, this is something that people calling into these radio shows, you know, trying to talk about how good Trump is for black people. Number one, usually they aren't African American, number one. Two, they really don't know what they're talking about. Because if you know how to read, you can refute that nonsense. Job growth was slower in 2017, Trump's first year, than every year since 2010. Now, if you sit up here and listen to the lies this fool tells, and if you don't read, then you'll think he's telling the truth. He's not. During his presidential campaign, Donald Trump promised he'd be the greatest jobs president God ever created. In a tweet last week, he claimed his administration's massive corporate tax cut, which is a tax cut for the rich, 83% of the benefits going to the top 1%. In a tweet last week, he claimed his administration's massive corporate tax cut has created and will continue to create jobs for Americans. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's a government entity, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is the department that tracks the unemployment rate. 2017 saw, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2017 saw 2.06 million jobs created, making the most sluggish job growth in America since President Obama's first term, when the economy was pulling out of the Great Recession. Wait a second. Now, if you sit up and listen to this fool, sit up and tell these lies every day, then he sends Sarah Huckabee Sanders out, the White House press secretary, who tells lies. I watch the White House press secretary, the press briefing almost every day. He has Kellyanne Conway, who they won't even let on MSNBC anymore because she tells so many lies. She's on CNN. They won't even have her on MSNBC anymore. Kellyanne Conway tells so many lies. If you look at the actual data, and even Fox News had to admit this. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2017 saw 2.06 million jobs created, making that the most sluggish growth in America since Obama's first term. His first term was in 2009. The anemic job numbers are also an indicator that Trump is misguided in his belief that gutting regulations actually creates jobs. The whole thing is backwards. But if you know how to read, you know how to figure this stuff out. Read this article from thinkprogress.org. 5 things you should know about the Trump economy, because they show you a chart of job creation. And 2017 was the worst year for job creation since about 2009 or 2010. Isn't that interesting? Since 2010, yeah. Job growth was slower in 2017 than every year since 2010. Imagine that. Okay. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Hey, Charlene, call back in. I was coming to you. Sorry about that. Call back in, Charlene. Charlene Mitchell. Let's go to Chuck in Detroit. Hey, Chuck, thanks for holding. Sorry for the wait. Welcome to the African History Network show.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate you taking my call, sir. Mr. Hotep, what do you think about running for the presidency of the United States. You make a good candidate.
Oh, no,
you should be on. You should be on the ballot.
I'm not running for president. Now, I am on the board of Grits and Politics. I am involved in politics. I'm on the board of Grits and Politics, but no, I'm not running for president, man. Right now, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay, you say Grits and Politics?
Yeah, Grits and Politics. So white people have pancakes in politics. We have grits in politics. So Keith Williams started that, and we have forums. I got to see when the next one's coming up. We meet at we have them at Greater Emmanuel Church, but we have forums where we deal with political issues. We deal with issues in the community, and also during election time, we have the politicians come before us and we challenge them on what are your initiatives, what are your issues, things like this. Absolutely, Grits and Politics.
Well, you know, with that, you say Keith Williams, somebody like yourself. You guys should get on the ballot, man, for real, because you guys are very informative when it comes to politics. There's a lot of people that don't understand politics, like you and Mr. Williams.
Yeah,
so it's a few more people. Who was that do the red line?
Oh, that's Banker Lay Thompson.
Yeah,
he's a host here. Yeah, the Red Line show.
You are very knowledgeable, man, and you guys need to be on the ballot for real. You know, I'm not exaggerating at all.
Okay.
You guys need to be on the ballot, man, because you guys have a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
And you lay it out, because a lot of people are not savvy with reading. Right. A lot of people are, what you call it, when it comes to
illiterate.
Not being read.
Illiterate?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, illiterate. Yes, sir. And we need people like you all, man,
yes.
To run for office. And I'm sure with leaders like you all, I mean, man, the world will fall in place, man, especially this country, this city, this state,
Okay.
And, we need people like you all, man.
Hey, Chuck, I got to get this other call, man. But thanks for calling, Chuck. I appreciate it. I got this. Let's go to Charlene. Charlene Mitchell, one of the talk show hosts here on 910 AM. How you doing, Charlene? Thanks for holding.
I am great. Great show tonight, as usual. You're really handling it. You are on fire.
Thanks.
I had to hang up because I was out at the airport picking up my grandson.
Oh, okay.
So I had a long wait just sitting, and so I called, and then you were coming up on break, and then I had to move, so I had to hang up because I couldn't do all that at once. Yeah, but yeah, you really handled that one fellow. He was, he was pretty polite. He was beating around the bush. I knew where he was going with everything.
I knew where he was going also.
But yeah, it's good to see that you're doing so many of the seminars. I'm gonna have to try to get to some of these things.
Okay.
Get some motivation.
Yes.
Because it amazes me, the research that you do and the knowledge that you have, and just so good to to hear you.
Right.
On Sundays with the information that you bring. So you'll have to come back on Mind Your Business real soon.
Yeah, Mind Your Business. So Thursdays, 9 p.m., right?
Yeah, same time you come on.
Okay, yeah. So listen, Thursdays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Charlene Mitchell, host of Mind Your Business, right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation. Okay, Charlene. Go ahead. Did you have something else to say?
Yeah, this week we're talking about the women in newsrooms. There's a new study out on all women, not just black women, but the effect of not having enough women in newsrooms and how that affects the kind of coverage of all stories, not just stories affecting women.
Right. It's skewed.
So,
the coverage is skewed when you don't have that balance. Absolutely.
That's right. So we'll have you on soon.
Okay. Yeah, let me know. Just call me.
Keep up the great work. Bye-bye.
All right, Charlene. Thanks. I appreciate it. Once again, check out this article, 5 Things Everyone Should Know About the Trump Economy. This is from thinkprogress.org. The stock market is soaring, but wages are stagnant. So we hear Trump stand up here and lie and saying wages are increasing for the first time in years. That's a lie. That's a lie. Despite the stock market numbers and low unemployment, average hourly earnings grew by only 0.4% in 2017, a step backward from 1.8% in 2015 and 0.8% in 2016. Wait a second. You mean to tell me that wage growth was higher under President Obama in 2015 and 2016 than it was from Trump, the greatest jobs creator that God ever made in 2017? This is the data. This is not the lies you hear on Fox News. This is not the lies you hear these callers calling here with because they don't do any research. Despite the stock market numbers and low unemployment rate, average hourly earnings grew by only 0.4% in 2017, the first year of Trump's administration. This was a step backwards. This was a reverse. This is going in the wrong direction because the wages increased 1.8% in 2015 under President Obama, and in 2016 they increased 0.8%. Now, I'm not saying it's a huge increase, but when you listen to Trump lie day after day, he says now wages are going up. They were going up under President Obama. It's going up slower under you. And for rank and file workers, the numbers are even more dismal. The average hourly wage of production and non-supervisory workers was $22.30, growing just 4 cents or 0.17% from December 2016. Oh, wait a second. This was going up more under the black man. Imagine that. Minimum wage workers, meanwhile, have continued to see the federal minimum wage remain at a paltry $7.25. Where it was remained since 2009. Imagine that. Wages were going up under President Obama, but this guy is saying, oh, they weren't going up under Obama. They're just starting to go up now. No, that's a lie. All right. So let's go to Wadsworth. Okay, let's go to line 1, Wadsworth. Hey, Wadsworth, thanks for calling. Thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us which city you're calling from.
I'm calling from West Bloomfield Township, Michael, and you're very inspirational and you're very knowledgeable, and I've been listening to you for all these weeks because another listener, because somebody else told me about you should listen to Michael. I am because you are like a bunch of fresh air because you got all the knowledge and I do look at I do research
yes,
and you're very good at that and I really appreciate that and I want to get back to Starbucks. I want to get back with the Starbucks issue because
Starbucks
because I'm involved in the deaf. I'm involved in the deaf community, but this happened a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Over in Troy, when we have our deaf night, with all the deaf people, all the deaf come on one Friday, or the very first Friday, and the last time they did it, the manager saw these people, and they put up a sign on the window that said only 50 people were allowed into this were allowed in.
Okay, was this at a Starbucks?
Huh?
Was this at a Starbucks?
Yeah.
Okay. They put up a sign saying only 50 people allowed in. That's the capacity.
And so what they did from that moment, the deaf people, what they did, because they had moved their social gathering, they moved to Great Lakes Crossing, because they were offended, and they didn't go back. They just took their business and they took over Great Lakes Crossing.
Okay.
With Great Lakes Crossing, they meet in the food court, and that's much bigger.
Right.
And they took the business. They took it to someplace else. And I think as a black people, I think that we should all come together and we could take our business. We don't have to work there. We don't have to patronize that place. We can take our business. We can show them that if you don't appreciate if you don't appreciate who we are,
right,
we're gonna take our business.
Absolutely, take our business somewhere else. Absolutely.
like Big B or like
some of the other places that sell coffee and some African American establishments as well. Okay.
Right.
Okay, Wadsworth. Thanks for calling in, man. Thanks for calling in. All right, we'll go back to the phone lines in just a minute here, but I need to get to this story about Colin Kaepernick because we're running out of time. So News1.com has an article about this, as well as Huffington Post. Colin Kaepernick earns a prestigious global award as the NFL snubs him. Okay, so Amnesty International, which is a global human rights organization, awarded Colin Kaepernick its 2018 Ambassador of Conscience Award. He accepted the prize on Saturday, this past Saturday, yesterday, August 21st, on Saturday at a ceremony in Amsterdam, Netherlands. The award recognizes individuals who have promoted and enhanced the cause of human rights through their lives and by example. Now, Colin Kaepernick joins an elite circle that includes previous winners like Nelson Mandela and Harry Belafonte. Okay. Colin Kaepernick said in his acceptance speech, quote, "I would like to thank Amnesty International for the Ambassador of Conscience Award, but in truth, this is an award that I share with all of the countless people throughout the world, combating the human rights violations of police officers and their uses of oppressive and excessive force." All right, now Colin Kaepernick began kneeling during the national anthem in the 2016 season to protest the wave of police killings of unarmed African-American men and the racial bias in the criminal justice system. He inspired the Take a Knee protests among players. At the same time, it sparked harsh criticism from opposers, including Donald John Trump, who somehow became president of the United States. He ignored the reason for the demonstration. Trump ignored the reason for the demonstration and accused the mostly African-American athletes of being, quote-unquote, unpatriotic. In response to the controversy, NFL owners allegedly colluded to keep Colin Kaepernick unsigned by an NFL team. It appears that he'll go yet another season not playing in the league. Once again, Colin Kaepernick said in his acceptance speech, "I would like to thank Amnesty International for the Ambassador of Conscience Award. But in truth, this is an award that I share with all of the countless people throughout the world combating the human rights violation of police officers and their uses of oppressive and excessive force." Check out this article from News1.com. Colin Kaepernick earns a prestigious global award as the NFL snubs him. This is from April 22nd, 2018. The former quarterback joins an elite group of human rights activists. Okay. Also, we got to squeeze in this story here. There's another one from News1.com, and this was dealing with Barbara Bush. So we got to get to this story, then we'll go back to the phone line. So yesterday was the funeral of Barbara Bush, former First Lady. And Barbara Bush had a strange relationship, a contentious relationship with the African-American community. There was a good article that dealt with Forgive But Don't Forget, remembering Barbara Bush's complicated relationship with the African-American community. Forgive but don't forget. Remembering Barbara Bush's complicated relationship with the African-American community here. And let's pull this up here. So a lot of people remembered her comments from Hurricane Katrina, okay? And so remember, she was the wife of President George H. Bush, okay, the father, and the mother of George H.W. Bush. And Hurricane Katrina happened under George H.W. Bush's watch, okay? So, so she passed away this past Tuesday in Houston, and many people remember her comments about those in Hurricane Katrina who were trapped. Okay, why didn't they just leave? Things like this. We're going to go to the phone lines while I pull up that article. Let's go to Jack holding line 2. Hey, Jack, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us what city you're calling from.
Inkster, Michigan. Hello. I just want to compliment you I've been following you a long time. I just want to compliment for the good work you're doing, and I wish to one day get to see you. I'm an older person, almost blind, but I love what you're saying, doing what you're teaching. Just keep up the good work, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Jack, man. Thanks for calling. Let's go to Tony, line 3. Hey, Tony, thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
Northwest side of Detroit. Peace, love, respect. Michael.
Thank you, sister.
You know what? I just found out maybe a couple weeks ago that Starbucks uses prison slave labor products, and they purchase them and charge all that money.
No, which products?
Many other companies.
Which products do they use that are made by prison labor?
The paper products, the cups, those products. And there are so many other companies that use prison slave labor.
Right.
And they charge us a fortune, and they get it for, a fraction. I mean, a fraction of the cost.
Right.
And,
right. So I've talked about that in the past. AtlantaBlackStar.com. AtlantaBlackStar.com has an article about that, about 13, I think it's 13 different corporations that use prison labor. I couldn't remember the exact product. Now, that article from a few years ago.
I followed you on that one. Yes, I did. Back in, it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
And one more thing.
Okay.
When that 45 signed that executive order, the Farm Act.
Okay.
And the food assistance programs and Medicaid is going to be drastically affected about that Farm Act, and I think it was passed and upheld. Did you hear that?
The Farm Act, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It's about you having to work for food assistance and Medicaid, and drug tested, and having a job.
Yeah.
And then, so you got medical marijuana out here. And it's like, wow,
now,
it's like a setup.
Now, when you say it passed, you're saying it passed both branches of Congress?
That's what I heard.
Because I haven't heard that it passed both branches of Congress. We know
that's what I was asking you. Because was it the same thing as 45's executive order and the passing of the bill?
Well, here's what they want to do. Here's what they want to do. For Medicaid, they want to make it mandatory for people who receive Medicaid to work. All right? About 70% of the people who already receive Medicaid work. Okay? They also want to make it mandatory for people who receive welfare to work. Okay? About 70% of the people who receive welfare work. Now, they stipulated some exceptions from what I haven't heard that it passed both branches of Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Okay, I haven't heard that. There's been initiatives to make welfare recipients have to take drug tests. When it's happened in various states, like in Florida, they found it was a waste of money because they found overwhelmingly those welfare recipients weren't using drugs. Okay. Now, personally, I think that all elected officials should have to take a drug test.
That's what I told the sister on the other show.
Yes.
Tracy Martin. Yeah, we was like, they either something mentally wrong or they on drugs. They need to be tested.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, sister, thanks for calling.
Absolutely.
I gotta
Thank you.
Yeah, and come out to my presentation Friday in Oak Park, Michigan. Okay? All right, look, we got to get to this other story. Run out of time. I got to do some Facebook Live broadcasts tomorrow and Tuesday to deal with these other stories. The article from AtlantaBlackStar.com, this is from October 10th, 2014. 13 mainstream corporations benefiting from the prison industrial complex. 13 mainstream corporations benefiting from the prison industrial complex. Okay, you got, since this is like 4 years old, you have to look at it and then research each one of these companies to see if they're still doing it. Some have changed once they were exposed. Because I know Whole Foods, they were involved in something, and they stopped it once they were exposed. With Starbucks, it says Starbucks uses inmates to cut costs as well. Starbucks subcontractor Signature Packaging Solutions hired Washington State prisoners to package holiday coffees. Okay, I can't remember if they still do that or not. Research that. Okay. Lastly, so with Barbara Bush. All right. So this story here, forgive but don't forget. Forgive but don't forget. Remembering Barbara Bush's complicated relationship with Black America. News1.com, April 15, 2018. So they talk about how, let's see, Barbara Bush showcased her apparent indifference to the plight of Black women's quest for legitimacy in the eyes of white America, came when she expressed doubt, to put it mildly, over claims that Clarence Thomas had sexually harassed Anita Hill. She appeared to victim shame Anita Hill while defending the man who her husband nominated to succeed Thurgood Marshall, the first African-American justice on the U.S. Supreme Court. Then also, let's see, she also wondered in Barbara Bush, a memoir, if a speech from Pat Buchanan, who ran against George H.W. Bush for the 1992 Republican presidential nomination, was racist or just racial, considering Pat Buchanan ran a America First campaign that was nearly identical to that of Donald Trump. It's unclear how Barbara Bush could be confused about the nature of Pat Buchanan's words. Okay, and then let's see here. You have the incident. Let me see. They talk about Hurricane Katrina as well. Let's see. But perhaps Barbara Bush's greatest, or at least most infamous, racial faux pas came in the days following Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The deadly natural disaster affected millions of people, most of whom were African American. The fact was not lost on her when she told the media how grateful the underprivileged Katrina victims should be for being displaced to Houston. Okay? How grateful the underprivileged Katrina victims should be for being displaced to Houston, where Barbara Bush has called home since leaving the White House in 1992. She said, quote, and so many of the people in the Houston Astrodome here, were underprivileged anyway, so this is working very well for them. They were underprivileged, so it's working well that they're in the Houston Astrodome, as if they would prefer to live in the arena turned homeless shelter instead of their homes. African Americans are the most forgiving people in the history of humanity, so we will probably mourn Bush's death with respect, even though there is absolutely no excuse for the racism or discrimination she selectively paid attention to during her life. Check out this article, news1.com. Forgive but don't forget, remembering Barbara Bush's complicated relationship with Black America. Hey, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Our presentations coming up Friday, April 27th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Oak Park, Michigan, 25900 Greenfield Road, the Crown Point Building, 3rd floor, Suite 326. The role of Black women in the film Black Panther. The role of Black women in the film Black Panther. You don't want to miss that free event. Donations accepted. Sunday, April 29th, I'll be in Cleveland at the Event Mitchell Center for the Mitchell Event Center for the Cleveland Natural Hair Care Expo. Visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com for that information. And then Sunday, May 6th, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Nandy's Knowledge Cafe, 71 Oakman Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan. Right off of Hamilton, the new Nandy's Knowledge Cafe, a Black Panther analysis, African culture, history, and Afrofuturism. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. We'll have all this information at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Look, I got to get out of here. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. Wakanda forever. It's not over till we win. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.